are fine and safe in this COVID pandemic. This is a day 6 of 1 week online short-term training program on teaching learning pedagogies approved and funded by AICT Quality Improvement Scheme, AQIS, New Delhi, and organized by AG Patil Polytechnic Institute, Solapur, Maharashtra. On behalf of our institute, I, Naresh Patil, lecturer in Mechanical Engineering Department, would like to welcome today's speaker, Professor Praveen Revankar, Campus Director and Principal of the Institute, Dr. M. A. Chougale, Vice Principal, Professor J. M. Jaketia, Coordinator of this STTP, Mr. S. K. Mohite, Head of Departments, my colleagues, and dear participants. The topic for today's session is Fundamentals of Blended Learning. Whether you are teaching students or training the employees, blended learning works because it can make your teaching more effective. It helps in building engagement, improving learners' efficiency, and also in enhancing the teaching efforts. To guide us on this topic, today we are fortunate to have Professor Praveen Revankar sir among us. I feel privileged to introduce him. He is graduated from KREC, which is one of the reputed National Institute of Technology at Surathkal in electrical engineering in the year 1986 and completed post-graduation from Walchand College of Engineering, Sangli in electronics engineering in the year 1989. He is holding 25 years of rich experience in teaching and research as well. Currently, he is professor and director at Center for Information Technology, Yashwantrao Chavan Academy for Development Administration, that is Eshda, Pune, Maharashtra. He heads the IT unit to manage hardware, software development, and IT as well as e-governance training programs at Eshda, Pune. This center is participating in Prime Minister's flagship program of Digital India for its capacity building initiatives. He is the senior faculty in e-governance and change management for class 1 officers of various state cadres. He had worked as a head of computer science and engineering at Government College of Engineering, Amravati and Aurangabad as well. He worked as a registrar academic at Government College of Engineering, Aurangabad. As far as his recognitions are concerned, he has participated in Canada-India Industry Linkage Project, through which certified as Applied Strategic Planning Facilitator and Applied Design A Curriculum Facilitator. He was chairman of BOS in CSC at Amravati University during year 2000 to 2005. He is certified national facilitator in training need analysis and TNA toolkit. He has participated in national level trainer development workshops in evaluation of training and design of training. He worked as a coordinator and resource person for National Level Chief Information Officer for e-Governance Champion Development Program. He worked as a course director and designer for National Level Recognized Trainer in e-Governance Program. So, such a huge biodata this personality is holding, and today it's our pleasure that he is going to guide us in this upcoming session. Once again, I welcome you, sir, and I request you to initiate the session on fundamentals of blended learning. Thank you. Over to you, sir.
So thank you so much. So let me start sharing my thoughts on blended learning concepts. Blended learning, as I was about to tell, has come out as a boon in the current pandemic situation for us. In a sense, we wouldn't have gone in for such kind of online learning solutions if this kind of extraordinary situation has not arisen. So if you take positive part of the current pandemic, I feel we are on the verge of accepting blended learning as a model for making learning to happen through our teaching in an online mode. But there are so many challenges. I would like to share a slide which speaks about how do we carry out today's class operations. In today's education system, time is held as a constant while student learning is variable. That means for every unit of the syllabus, fixed time period is allotted. For every week, for a subject, fixed time slots are allotted. But what remains variable is students' learning, in the sense that some students are quick learners, some students are not, and some students fall in between. But the time flies. When the time and the teacher move on to another concept, therefore, students have varying levels of mastery over the given subject. I feel this is the greatest challenge of today's education system. Every teacher, whether he is a novice, a new entrant, or an accomplished veteran, by way of his experience, should start rethinking on this very way how we deliver the teaching in the classroom. Was that effective? Had it been it was effective, we could have seen a changed country by this time. In what way? Because we are supposed to deliver the goods to the students as far as their knowledge, skills, and some level of attitudes are concerned. Finish them up and send them across to the community to solve their problems. Community is waiting. We call that waiting as the roles for our students to be accepted as jobs. Essentially, community is waiting to get their challenges met from the skilled inputs of your students over a period of time. So it is essential that looking at the needs of the student, looking at his own inclination, looking at his own plan for his life, we should go in for making learning happen for the student by way of our teaching. Unfortunately, this rarely happens because only teachers want to teach, administrators want to score the marks based upon how many teaching sessions we have conducted. Surprisingly, administrators also think in different way, in the sense that they think if more teaching is done, if more hours of engagement is given to the students, as far as teaching is concerned, possibly learning happens in a better manner. Maybe this is not true. Therefore, we need to shift our attention to a totally new concept in which can we make time as a variable, but students learning as a constant. This happens in mastery-based learning system. Blended learning, if you ask me, is all about shifting our paradigm to a new concept, that is mastery-based learning. What is blended learning? Online learning, online teaching, I see many institutes are striving hard to start their academics by going in for technology interventions. But does technology intervention alone can solve this problem? Now this is $1 million question, because right now also maybe some of you who have started my session are attending to their daily course because you are at home. Somebody may be cooking, somebody may be doing something else, which is rather a priority for them at this point. Online for your teaching, the same thing is likely to happen with different. Yes. So in that respect, we should know that merely going online doesn't mean blended learning. Blended learning, if we want to see its simplest definition, is a formal education program in which a student learns at least in part through online learning. That is the only role of online learning in a new paradigm, with some element of student control over time, place, path, and pace. And out of remaining at least some part in a supervised brick and mortar location away from home. Now, there are three parts of this definition. Number one, some portion of the learning has to be done in an online way, for which we all are striving and struggling hard for last few months. Many of you must have prepared, or some of you must have started also delivering their online courses. But then, second and third part, have you addressed? Second part says some element of student control over time, place, path, and pace. So, this part of the definition we are going to expand in this presentation in the coming slides. The last part of the definition says that at least some part should be in a teacher supervised mode at a location, at a brick and mortar location, which is away from students' home. This part is yet to come, for which we are dependent upon the authorities. Whenever authorities will lift the lockdown on the training and teaching activities at the institute, only this is possible. Till then, we have to ensure first and second part of blended learning to happen. The second bullet point of this slide also speaks about what it should include as a part of the blended learning. It says it should include modalities for every student's learning path for the subject to provide integrated learning experience. We are going to expand this in the coming slides to come. Now, online learning or blended learning, many of us feel that it is going to solve all our problems. What are the problems? Most of the times teachers are focused on delivering their lecture sessions with whatever oratory skills that they have and whatever knowledge that they have gathered over the period of their experience. And maybe some of them have huge experience. And they deliver very nicely in the classroom. And they go away, assuming that their oratory skills must have transpired to imbibe this knowledge and skills in the students' minds. How far this is true? Usually students are not bothered about what is their understanding of the subject, because their goal is not the knowledge and skills mostly, but their goal is marks, assessment. They want to rise up in their grades by way of good marks achieved through assessment, and therefore that creates a gap. An accomplished teacher teaches students who are aspirants for their career, listen to the lecture session, but in a way, their focus is not on acquiring the knowledge and skills, but their focus is on marks. We need to reduce this gap. We need to bring our focus to bring our attention to knowledge and skills development, and somehow deviate students from their focus on the marks. And this is a big challenge in today's education system. Blended learning, as the definition goes, we have seen, includes some portion of learning to happen in the online mode. So I am seeing so many institutes, so many colleges, so many polytechnics. They are somehow shifting themselves to the technology intervened learning, and they feel now the job is done. I think it is not very correct. Technology intervention, such as this kind of Zoom session, or somebody is using GoToWebinar, somebody is using Microsoft Teams, Google Meet, there are so many tools. But that doesn't mean that learning is ensured. Blended learning is all about ensuring the learning, concepts related to ensuring the learning in the students. Believe me, mostly it has nothing to do with technology. It is more to do with basic human skills which we are trying to understand. So if you look at this slide speaks about differential advantages of blended learning. What is the differential advantage? Differential advantage is that blended learning is yet to establish itself in the education system. That means we are new to it. But in early part of any game, we are the crusader and we are the role maker because we are the experimenter. I appeal to all teachers, start experimenting what works and what doesn't work, with an objective that learnability of the student is ensured. Not completion of the syllabus is to be ensured. Most of the teachers, due to the learning in time as a constant mode, focus upon completing their syllabus. Because in every curriculum appraisal meeting, most of the administrators ask this question to the teacher: how much syllabus is completed? How much learning has happened is not a question, surprisingly. Actually, we should start with how much learning has happened and what were the yardsticks to measure this learning. And we should give freedom to the teacher to plan his own lessons to ensure the learnability among the students. So therefore, there is a lot of scope now. The focus is shifted again to the teachers. Teacher can try out his ideas with all that freedom institute gives to him. Only thing teacher has to ensure is that he should focus upon learning and learnability of the students, because the rules of blended learning are still evolving. So you are, as a crusader, you are participating in a rule making part of the blended learning. You can vouch later on that I have tried this with the students and it works, or whether it doesn't work. Therefore, if you ask me what is that basic skill a teacher should practice, teacher should have, teacher should focus upon. He should be a simple human being in the role of a leadership. You will always find in my next slides in this presentation, I am going to focus upon this part of blended learning, because blended learning is all about learning and is not about blending the technology for teaching and learning. Technology is a very small component. I am a person from technology background, as you all are. Plus, I am a person from computer science background. That means you can imagine that I must have tried many technological solutions for teaching and learning. And with the experience that I have got, I can say by authority that technology is not that important, but teacher as a human being with human skills in the role of leadership is more important. So we are going to speak on this more. There is one more definition of high quality blended learning. It has 4 parts, and these 4 parts will throw some light on what I was trying to tell in my earlier slide, wherein in the last part, role of a teacher as a human being and in the role of leadership really comes in, and that is important. Now, when we say role of leadership, all of you think that you are a leader. Of course, you are a leader because you are entering in the class as a leader. You are leading the class for a useful discussion, for the subject knowledge that you want to impart to the students. But here, I would like to introduce you to the definition of leadership given by one of the famous management guru and professor, late Mr. Peter Drucker, who says leadership is a role. He may not be a person. Leadership is a role taken up by a person who, for the sake of organizational goals and objectives, sacrifices his personal goals and objectives. And therefore, one of the greatest quality of humans is widely spoken, written, and researched for his emancipation of life is sacrifice. Therefore, if you could sacrifice some of your personal goals and objectives for the goals and objectives of the organization, then your leadership role becomes more prominent. We always think the role of a leader means he should have a charisma, he should have an authority, he should have some power. With all that power that you have got, with all that charisma that you enjoy amongst the students, with the skills that you have, with the experience that you have, does it really convert you into leadership? Yes, but if you take that role of leadership for solving the student's problem, for focusing upon goals and objectives of your subject, and see to it that majority of the students are aligning themselves as a part of the semester's work or a year's work for the subject knowledge that you have planned for the students. It may so happen that some of your personal goals, some of your objectives of your personal life, you may need to sacrifice. And that particular definition of Peter Drucker I like very much because it speaks volumes about teachers' role in the community development. If you go to the second definition of high quality blended learning, earlier definition we just spoke about blended learning, but now we are speaking about high quality blended learning. Please remember, high quality blended learning does not have any relevance to high quality technology intervention, high quality bandwidth, high quality equipment, high quality applications. It doesn't have any bearing on high quality blended learning. High quality blended learning is high quality learning in a blended mode. And what is blended mode? We have already seen blended is nothing but blending the learning with technology. And what is that technology? Blending the learning with online learning. But learning is more important. And the four parts to make that learning more effective are personalized education. And when we say personalized education, the role of a teacher again becomes more prominent. Personalizing the education for every student means what? Looking after the needs and gaps of every student, making learning personalized for each learner. I believe one of the resource person must have taken a session for you on learning style assessment, and you must have gathered the basic nuances of learning styles, and at least you must have exposed yourself that not everyone is a auditory learner, which we assume. When we go to classroom and we always try to focus upon auditory learning mechanism. But some of the learners are non-auditory learners. That means some of the learners are visual learners. Maybe some of them are kinesthetic learners. Few of them may be global learners, local learners, intuitive learners, teach pendant, local learners. All these varieties of students are sitting across in the classroom, and a teacher goes in the classroom assuming that the auditory or a verbal way of teaching and auditory way of learning, supported by some notes and some books, again in a verbal learning mode, will make learning happen. It's good that this session was organized as a part of this course, and all of you are now aware that there is a different learning style, a different dominant learning style for every student sitting in the classroom. Every teacher now has an additional responsibility that his lesson plan should be organized in such a fashion that learning styles of majority of the students are covered in his lesson. Now, how it is to be done? It is teachers look out for the freedom that he has, because you know the students, better, and demographic varieties have different student needs based upon their culture, based upon their location, or from the strata of society from where they come to the institutes. And therefore, if you want to personalize the education for your learner, you may start from assessing the learning styles of the students. I may also recommend to you, if you can note down, Professor Richard Felder, a professor of chemical engineering, has come out with learning style assessment questionnaire, which may not be very scientific, but which is good to share with the students and get their learning styles assessed. I appeal to all teachers that they may download the relevant questionnaire and assess their own learning styles so that you can also know that you are not a auditory learner, or some of you are not auditory learners, but your own learning styles are different. If your own learning style is not a verbal learning style or auditory learning style, are we not taxing the students by making them understand the subject, comprehend the subject, interpret the concepts in the subject that you are teaching only in one mode? So that is one of the way to personalize the education for every learner. Second part of high quality blended learning, I'll again repeat, all these four parts do not have any relevance to the technology, but they have got every relevance to my earlier slide, wherein in the last part I said the role of a teacher as a human being will become more prominent in the role of leadership, and therefore the high quality blended learning definition explodes these two parts. And therefore the second part of high quality blended learning is it should be mastery based. Mastery based, we try to indirectly convey to you that we should come out of time as a constant mode. One concept, one lecture, and then it's over. What happens? Some of the students may get the concepts because they come prepared, because their learning prerequisites are matching with your lecture session. But there will be many students whose learning prerequisites are not matching with your session. That means if you are giving your session for advanced concepts of some mathematics in a classroom in which majority of students have not got prerequisites required for that learning, your teaching may not be effective. Sometimes it might go waste also. It may not be fruitful. It may not give desired result. And therefore the time has come now that we shift our attention to mastery based education. How can we do that? We are going to see slowly in this presentation how this is possible, how we can convert this into a possibility by using blended learning, by using online teaching mode. Online teaching mode, as we have just now seen, is a part of blended learning, but there is more to come than only online teaching in a blended learning mode. Blended learning is all about learning, and it is focused upon the needs of the students to be met as far as his learning is concerned. See, one of the huge challenges is that students do not want to learn. Students want only marks, they want only degree. They feel that if they have degree in hand, diploma in hand, without knowledge, without skill, they can also get a job, or they should get a job, because that is what the culture, the earlier education system has taught them, or has given them as a trend. Therefore, the third part of blended learning is more prominent. It should contain high expectations for the student. Students should be encouraged. The last two parts are focused on students' behavior, which we rarely find in students in our country, in our state. And therefore, there is a lot of input that a teacher should organize by way of training of students. Then only we can show some results. As far as first part, that is personalized learning is concerned, teachers should focus upon basically assessing the students from which background he is coming for the kind of learning style he has. As far as second part, that is mastery based education, teacher has to convert his teaching design into a mastery based teaching design. How we can convert that, we are going to see. That's what I said. But the last two parts again shift our attention to the students. Students should set high expectations for themselves. That means they should set the standards for themselves to prepare for a career. Please remember, students' parents have sent the student to you by investing their hard-earned money. For what purpose? They want the child to support the family so that well-being of the family, financial security of the family can be taken care of. Slowly child is going to have his own family and he becomes competent to handle the his challenges for the family that he is going to lead in future. That is the clear way of looking at your courses from the parents' perspective. Unfortunately, our earlier education system, including the school education system, have not prepared the students by way of training them for a career. Every student should know what a career means, why we should build a career. And that may start with planning for his own satisfied, contented, and happy life. What are the goals of life from the man's birth, maybe till his death? A student should know these realities and should plan that some of the part I should take care of. If I am coming from a certain strata of society, certain kind of family, certain income level, what is that I can build myself by opting for a career so that I can lead a better life for my family. Lot of value perspective comes in between. There is a set value system. The student comes to the institute. The institute is supposed to add its own values to the student's character so that we finish the student for the desired values to prepare him for a career. Does it really happen in our campuses? Yes, indirectly. No, directly. Yes, indirectly means the peer groups, their seniors, the interactivity amongst themselves certainly teach them that we need to change for better value system. We should take the values of the institute with us, take the values of the family with us. God has given us some certain differential values which maybe his parents do not have. Combining all these three values, he forms his own value system. But there is a lot of training input. Teacher can plan for a student if at all he is not able to converge his value system for building a career. So he should be taught on what a goal is. If I set a goal for next 5 years, what an objective is. If I set objectives for the goal on year basis, what are the activities under that objectives? These activities do they have some knowledge part? Do they have some skill part? Do they have some attitude and values part? Somebody is a sports person taking up a course on electrical engineering. How can we blend his sportsmanship for building a career which suits to his temperament, his character strengths? All these things, by taking inputs from the first part of high quality blended learning, that is personalized education, a teacher should plan. I know what is going on in your mind. Where is the time left to do all these things? And looking at the population of this country and the distilled population that is reaching to our classes, they are huge in number. Can we really do it? My point is, give a thought to it. Just closing our mind that this cannot be done, then the entire destination will never be reached, because we have kept the important parts of the path or the road to success untouched. That shouldn't happen. Maybe today you may not be able to do it, but one teacher who is young, who is dynamic, who has understood the nuances of high quality blended learning, has understood that in a mastery based education, if I devise some strategies, some design, if I can have, I should also give some training input to the students to find out what are his goals in life and what are his goals from the career. It is necessary that I give those inputs to the students. Those administrators who are listening this presentation, listening in this session, I strongly appeal to them, at least 10% of the time, energy and investment, they should think of focusing upon developing students first for their career alongside the academics. Because the very purpose of academics is to build a career for a child. And if the child is blindly going towards academic without focusing on his career goals, then society has less to offer to him, because he cannot convince community. What is that he has developed in the institute in terms of competencies for building a career for himself? And that part of the building of career through knowledge, skills and values and attitude that he has built are essentially useful for alleviating some of the challenges of community. And that is the very purpose, that is the very reason why community should engage him for a job. If this doesn't happen, we are seeing herds of students coming out from plethora of institutes, vying with each other without any goals for any job that comes in between. And they try to get a job, get a role, and they think that role is to make their life better by way of having some financial security. If you turn the coin around and try to inform the student that yes, some kind of financial security will be assured to you when you enter into a role which will be called as a job, but that job is going to solve some of the organizations, some of the communities, some of the service organizations, some nagging problems for which you have skills, knowledge and attitude. That is more important. And when this reverse thinking start happening in students' mind, I'm sure every student who is having a aspiring mind, any aspiring mind has got a motivation. Any aspiring mind, any student with an aspiring mind will be motivated to build a career, because he knows that he has to alleviate some of the sorrows and difficulties of the deprived part of the society by joining a force, maybe in the company or a organization such as service organization or a government sector as an employee, but that particular role will give him a small input, and that small input will make him financially secure. But in a way, he's giving at least 6 to 10 times more back to the society by way of his skills and knowledge. And that is the very purpose of his life. And that is called as career. If I could imbibe these things in the student's mind, I think that is the best beginning to happen for any student in the campus. If I can orient the campuses like this to begin with, the design of mastery based education, the second part in definition of high quality blended learning, becomes very easy. Last part of high quality blended learning is student ownership. Now, when you are teaching in a classroom or otherwise in an online session, do we have a control on students' learning? Possibly not. The students who are aspired for a better life by way of their culture, maybe family culture and background, they are highly motivated and they start performing, and we find them owning their learning. Majority of the students do not own their learning. We should develop an attitude amongst the student for this ownership, and this is a very important part of high quality blended learning. We are going to expand this concept again and again through a teacher's point of view, and second time in the student's point of view in this presentation. As this slide says, we need to work in the part of student ownership because this is very challenging. Mostly students do not want to know this. They don't want to know anything about ownership. If you go in classroom and teach some mathematics, teach some Bernoulli's equation, Young's modulus, Maxwell's equation, some Taylor series, some Fourier series, some triple integration problem, they do not know why they are learning. Sometimes I doubt even teachers know why we are teaching them Fourier series, Taylor series in a mathematics classroom. This rigor in which part of life situation is going to help him. And for this gap, mostly students do not want to know this because of their heavy schedule of tests, schedule of assessments, schedule of assignments, all are focused on goals of marks and grades. And students are very skillful in doing this. They know how to fetch marks, how to perform well in examination, how to factory produce the assignments, how to keep teachers happy. They do not know what it means to prepare for a career. They do not bother because they are not oriented or because they are engrossed in other activities. Most of the time, we find that students, in teachers' opinion, they are whiling away their time because they are engaged in fun activities. They are engaged in joyous activities. But I feel, as a teacher, you should never underestimate the power of joyful, joyous, and fun activity, because that is a activity conducted in an unsupervised mode through peer students. This is useful. In what way it is useful? It might be useful for developing their character strengths. And these character strengths, in a way, will help them to orient themselves for their career goals. Teacher's job is to harness this, harness the fun activity happening, harness the the joyous activity happening among the students, and keep tab on what is happening in their minds, so that we are somehow taking them on a path of ownership of their understanding, ownership of their learning. Once a student starts owning their learning, I feel the teacher becomes free, because he can go now in a autopilot mode, because every student is motivated based upon his own status as far as learning curve is concerned, to address his learning needs. You need to motivate the students. You need to explore on his aspirations to keep his motivation high. If he's a good player, maybe a table tennis player, or a good singer, or a good guitarist, you should give maximum credit to him whenever you discuss with him, with his friends, for the skills that he has. Maybe they are not related to your curriculum and syllabus, but that is going to build his character strength, and those character strengths will align him to student ownership of the learning. I would like to again repeat at this point of time that blended learning is all about learning and never about technology. But then, yes, what is the importance of technology? Or can we totally ignore the technology? No. Actually, technology, the information technology, or the kind of Zoom session that we are conducting, or the kind of YouTube technology that we have, or the kind of other virtual classroom technologies that we are seeing, or the social media that we have, such as Facebook we have, or WhatsApp we are using. They are extremely important. Why? Because because due to the technology itself, the blended learning is possible. Otherwise, it was not possible. Maybe this session is live on Facebook. Maybe it will be available offline also after this session is over. What's happening? This has become a resource which is accessible at any time, but by anyone. This is the power of technology. Further, technology makes it scalable. I don't know how many participants are there. I see around 133 participants number wise active for today's session. A.G. Patil Institute at Solapur. Maybe 133 participants in a physical mode was not possible. But now we are scaling it up. Few more are joining us on the Facebook. So this kind of scalability is a possibility because of only technology. And when it is scalable, it becomes financially viable. I don't know, but none of you must have paid any fees to join this course. But still you are getting a certificate. I am sitting at my home. I did not travel to Solapur. Costs are reduced. My lodging boarding costs are reduced. So that becomes financially viable. If I allow trainees to come in the campus, I need to make their stay arrangement, their boarding arrangement, their traveling arrangement, their local travel arrangement, all involve a cost. Therefore, I said at the beginning, technology intervened learning can also prove to be a boon, because there are differential advantages when we are using a technology. What are those advantages? Scalability is one, viability is one. And there are many things technology offers. If you don't like my session, you can leave. I may not know. You can stop me mentally. After this session is over, if you want to go back to some concept which I was focusing upon, and you can revisit my session, what I was trying to tell about. You can fast forward my session. All these are possibilities just because of technology. Many of you must have gone through a pedagogical concept which is known as flipped classroom. Blended learning is nothing but it is some kind of extrapolated version of flipped classroom. What is flipped classroom? Flipped classroom works on the premises that the learning happens beyond the classroom. Learning happens outside the classroom. We are flipping the learning outside the classroom. That means teacher works as a facilitator in the classroom for some time, some important intervention time, not more than 20 minutes or half an hour. Then based upon the prerequisites of the students, he may group the students and send them across anywhere they want to spend their time with the assignment that is given to them. And that assignment is based upon their own mastery based learning, that means their own learning prerequisites. And they have been given a task that you can take as much time as you want, but you need to come back to me when you solve this assignment. And that is the task given to you. That is the beginning of mastery based education in an flipped classroom, and this can be better evidenced in blended learning. That is what we are going to see. In blended learning, assuming that you know the flipped classroom, the way I have introduced to you, in the flipped classroom, less teaching happens in the classroom and the focus is shifted to the activities outside, maybe in the classroom or outside the classroom, which may be teacher intervened or which may not be teacher intervened or supervised, unsupervised classroom. So basically in the blended classroom, basically what was to be done in classrooms can be shifted at home. Like this, you are joining this course from home in an online mode. And what was being done at home earlier used to give some assignment to the student. And then student used to spend the time at home and come back to the solution, come back with the solution to you. Most of the time teachers did not have a time to look at the assignments. Most of the time students were aware that the teacher do not have time to look at the assignment. They used to produce the assignments, manufacture the assignments. Somebody was a master writer and somebody just copies it down. Remaining student just copy them down. So therefore, these are the problems associated with earlier kind of system. But we, in a flipped classroom mode, we focus more upon activities. We focus more upon assignments. We assuming that student have the ownership on their learning, assuming that every student has designed his own career path based upon which he has set his standards of learning. Maybe he's focusing more upon his other hobbies. Somebody is accomplished singer, then maybe he will focus less on your formal education by setting lower standards, and that is agreeable to the teacher. Once it is agreeable to the teacher monitors, supervises the student based upon the standards that the student has created for himself. And this kind of thing he brings in the system in a mastery based education. What remains to be done by the teacher is that to segregate the student based upon their learning styles and based upon their learning prerequisites and based upon the different kind of assignments at different levels he has created for his subject. In a flipped classroom mode, he develops the concept for a short period in the classroom session and segregates the classroom in a flipped mode, wherein students, based upon their mastery based learning, that means prerequisites in the subject knowledge and the learning style, with the students having their own ownership on the learning with their set standards for their career path, they focus upon the learning to happen, and that is the way blended learning can be effective. And that is why the 4 sections of high quality blended learnings are more important in this case. What a teacher should do, I think teachers should come out of the pedagogue's mindset. A pedagogue mindset is a basically a strict teacher, a very disciplined teacher. Somehow, I personally feel that teachers should come out of such kind of mindset. He should be seen more as a person with humane attitude. Personally, for his own classroom session, a teacher should be creative. A creative person is one who always takes risks. And teacher, I'm appealing to you that you take risks for personalizing the education for a student. See, all these 4 parts of high quality blended learning, all these 4 parts are interlinked to one another. If you want to personalize the education, you need to go for mastery based education. If you want mastery based education to be effective, underpinning 2 skills are required by the students for which the institutes and the teachers are responsible. The student should be able to set the high expectations, high standards for himself to build a career. And lastly, students should take the ownership. Here what happens, teachers are supposed to take the ownership as far as learning to happen, and that ownership is only reflected in marks. These students have known very well, and therefore student deduct the knowledge, deduct the understanding part, deduct the ownership of learning, and only focus on the marks. If we want to come out of this, then first 2 parts, personalizing the education in a mastery based learning mode, can only happen if students are setting the standards for their learning and students are taking ownership of their learning. I know it's a big task. I appeal to you that go slow. First, develop students' mindset by way of some training mechanism. Start giving more time to the students. And that is why I said in my beginning slide that teacher should convert himself into a simple human being. Come out of the role of a pedagogue, that is a strict and disciplined teacher, a simple, compassionate human being in a role of leadership. And therefore, we redefine the role of leadership, in which we said that a leadership is the one who sacrifices his personal goals for the goals of a organization. If you look at different models of blended learning, there is a lab rotation model, there is a station rotation model, and there is a hybrid model. Some of the resource person must have introduced you to these theoretical concepts of models of blended learning. I'm just giving you a slide on station rotation model, in which students start with online module, maybe from home, and move to the classroom to a teacher-led instruction to collaborate on projects with other students. That means there are 3 stages. Number 1, online module may be done at home. Number 2, a small classroom session looking at current pandemic We may not allow 60 students at a time, but we may allow 10 to 15 students at a time in a classroom with a social distancing norms and face mask norms and whatever it is. And then teacher is leading the instruction and explaining them in a tutorial class what assignment he has designed and what he is expecting. Again, assuming that it's a session with a small group, small instruction group, which is designed, which is the group itself is designed based upon their learning prerequisites, their own personalized education plans, that is their learning styles, with their own the student ownership and learning standards. This is the thing. Teacher has to form a small group and move to a teacher-led instruction, and then to a collaborative project, then set them free. In the third stage, set them free in a collaborative projects with other students. This is the important part. Actual learning, if you look at it, as far as imbibing the skills in their persona is concerned, will happen in the last part, the collaborative part, because it is unsupervised, because it is joyous, because it's a fun activity, because the students of their own age are interacting with themselves and they are learning together. Teacher is not seeing them. They do not crave that teacher should see what they are doing, but still they are learning. And therefore, the cycle of station rotation model is again repeated here. It should have three parts: online instruction, teacher intervened instruction, and assignments and projects. If you could convert your teaching plan into this model, I think this can be an effective way of going for blended learning mode using a technology intervention learning. I will again repeat, with all that urge for better learning to happen by way of your teaching is concerned, as far as me as a trainer is concerned, I will again and again repeat that blended learning is not about technology, is not about online learning, but blended learning is all about all these three. That is online learning, teacher intervened instruction, and assignments and collaborative projects. And for this to happen in a high quality way, high quality blended learning should have four components. One is personalized education, second one is mastery based education, third one is student ownership and student standards. For the last two things, we need to prime the students up. For the first thing, we need to work on learning style assessment and learning prerequisites. And for the second thing, we need to convert our learning design. We need to convert our teaching learning design into a new model, and that model is called as blended learning model. And one of the models of blended learning are station rotation model, and in which we can design our learning instead of a classical classroom session to a three-stage model, in which some component is given in an online instruction, some component is given in a teacher intervened instruction, and some component is given in a collaborative assignments and projects. When you do these three together, you will find that there are results coming up, that there is a learning happening. Learning is a sort of natural process. It's an organic process, in the sense that all of a sudden you will start finding a result in a big scale, but you need to sow the seeds, create a environment which is conducive so that the seeds reap in a flowering plant. And when the flowers start coming, they start coming in large numbers, and that is a joyful activity for the teacher. And that blended learning should blend all these concepts together. Only then it will happen. Only watering the plant will not give you good flowers. Only giving him fertilizer will not give you good flowers. It requires tender love to be given also. So that is a part of affective domain skills in education. We are going to see few concepts in that as a part of this education. I think till this time we have arrived at a concrete model how to convert our online learning into a blended learning mode in a model which consists of three stages: online instruction, which can be a YouTube video or video shared on WhatsApp, or a video shared on Facebook, or a video shared on learning management system of the college. Apart from that, there has to be a teacher intervened instruction. Today, we are not allowed to meet because of the pandemic situation and lockdown. But teacher can plan this activity also, maybe through a telephonic call, maybe through another Microsoft Teams or Google Meet or Zoom intervention, wherein he explains what he wants to uh, achieve as a part of online instruction that he has delivered to the students through a pre-recorded video, and then he explains the assignment problem or the objectives of the assignments and the goals of the projects, and form the groups based upon their student ownership, based upon their learning standards, based upon their learning styles in a mastery based education. Mastery based education essentially can have a model like station rotation model in for a blended learning mode. I think this slide speaks well about our second part of high quality blended learning, that is mastery based education. How to achieve mastery based education? Go for these three parts. Now, from the student's perspective, let us move to the teacher's perspective. Teacher should also know that if he is keeping in mind that he should personalize the learning, he should go for student ownership, the high expectations of the students, and mastery based education. What ideally student is trying to experience, they want to experience, they are eager to experience the student ownership, the personalized learning, the mastery based education. And the fourth one is relationships. Some of you who are of my age may even question this, why this fourth part is being highlighted here, which speaks about relationships. Unfortunately, our education system is designed in such a fashion that there is a dais in the classroom, and we climb the dais as a teacher, and students sit in front of us in the rows of benches as a subject. That means you are a king and the students are subjects, and that is the only relation a teacher is having with the students. I think the time has come to break this and go closer to the students to establish a emotional connection with the student. If the emotional connection with the students is not there, the learning cannot happen. Research says this. So I appeal to all of you to look at this particular last part of the slide, that is, how can I develop a fruitful relationship? Many teachers will complain to me, especially senior teachers, that if I start doing this, students will again start taking disadvantage of me, and that is not correct. And therefore, I want to maintain my strict approach. I want to be strict with the students, so that due to strictness, at least some work I can harness from the student. Please remember, students have already crossed their 18 years of age. Any person who is crossing 18 years of age, number one, he becomes legal. And why he is legal, why the law says that he is legal? Just because he has converted himself from the childhood or the adolescence to the adulthood. When he is adult, his brain is adult. When his brain is adult, he doesn't want to discipline himself unless he decides to discipline himself. And that is why the concepts of pedagogy rarely work here, but the concepts of andragogy only work here. To put it in simple words, pedagogy is you, ped is a Latin origin word which has origin to walking. You will find this ped origin in pedestal, pedia, pediatrics. All these are related to a child's initial life. So pedagogy is child's initial life where mother and father or parents and the teacher can discipline him to learn few nuances of life skills. And because he has lot of respect for his mother, lot of love for his mother, he starts obeying all elders, looking for the kind of love through motherhood as expected by him in all the elders, and that is why he obeys. But till a time when he reaches 18, when he crosses teenage, 12 or 13, slowly he starts showing a result, showing the adulthood result in the family. He doesn't want to listen to parents. He doesn't want to obey the parents. He wants to develop his own thinking. Maybe he wants to experiment something, fail and then learn. But beyond 18, he becomes a total andragog, where andragog means he is an adult learner. I have a simple definition for adult learning. Adult learner is the one who cannot be taught. If you try to teach adult learner, it is his choice whether to learn or not to learn. If he decides to learn, he may learn. He may discard. It is his choice. If he doesn't want to learn, whatever efforts you take, it will go waste. And if he wants to learn, even if you do not take any efforts, he will still learn. Therefore, you should look at your student as a subject of andragog, and therefore possibly relationship will work. Why in pedagogy also relationships work? As I said to you, a child looks at every adult in the role of the mother who loves him more and more, and therefore he obeys. And if the relationship is not there, even in primary school, child doesn't learn. Therefore, if you look at the primary school teachers, they will establish a relationship first. I appeal to you, look at your child for building a relationship, a meaningful relationship by way of some emotional connection, and you see how the learning happens more effectively. Student ownership. Can we give the paddles of the boat to the student instead of you having it? You are in the middle of the sea or middle of the river sailing, and you suddenly remove the paddles and say to student that you take over now, paddle the boat. Can we put students to a self-directed work? Can we empower them? Empower them to seek help from anybody, from you, from any elder, from the peer groups. This can happen only when teacher changes his role. I appeal all the teachers to become guide on the side than to remain sage on the stage. Mostly we were sages on the stages. Now the time has to come to convert ourselves as a simple guide, human being, who is standing beside the boy, beside the girl, beside the child, to guide him to learn. Ensure the skills of self-direction, ensure the skills of ownership of learning. How does students see personalized learning? Personalized learning for student is getting away from fixed speed and curriculum. He is happy. The speed was killing him. That huge curriculum was killing him. Actually, it's a syllabus, a piece of paper where units are written. Nowadays, we are converting into a curriculum just because NBA has made it compulsory, just because we have gone in through the concepts of Bloom's taxonomy. And then we ourselves are facing problems in selecting the proper action verbs, which are smart, that means which are measurable, which are achievable, all those criteria. See, in your every classroom, 1/3 already know what you are teaching. 1/3 are totally lost because they don't have prerequisites. And only for remaining 1/3, it is just a right session. That means 2/3 of the students, either they don't need you or they are totally lost in your classroom session. A teacher should understand that every student is in their own zone of proximal development. Unfortunately, teacher is unaware of this. Teacher should keep on discussing with the student whenever the time comes and keep a note of what is the zone of proximal development for a child, so that he can assess what assignments I can personalize for those student groups by segregating them differently in a mastery based education in a flipped classroom mode. And here, therefore, technology holds promise to do more personalization. How? You have a lot of freedom. You think over it. How can we use technology for doing personalization, giving different kind of assignments, giving different kind of projects, assessing their learning styles, giving training input for their career goal development, developing different videos for how to create a environment for student ownership for the students. All these promises a technology holds, and it is the duty of the teacher to harness this. Mostly students are like a cheese on the outer side, but there are cheese holes inside. So in a mastery based education, it is necessary that a teacher motivates them to self directed learning with his own ownership to bridge the gaps, whatever holes are there in the cheese that he eats. You motivate the child, you inform him. It is very much necessary to give constructive feedback to him. Always discourage the word but when you give a feedback. Whenever he comes to you with the assignment solved, whatever you do is you always talk about what mistakes he has done. Create a habit in yourself so that you don't discourage him. You always try to find out what particular things he has done it well, and upfront keep on discussing those things. Student himself knows. It is not necessary that as a pedagogue in a strict teacher mode you should shout at him and tell him that you are not good enough because you have not done it. Student knows it, that he has not done it well, but you keep on telling him what things he has done well. At the end, student himself will tell you, sir, but I have not met your standards, I have not done this well. At that time, discourage the use of but and encourage the use of yet. You say that, yes boy, you have not done it, but as yet I am confident that you will do it, don't worry. And that will motivate the student. Possibly he will take a message with him that my teacher has not scolded me, he has not demeaned my performance, and he knows that I am not up to the mark for his standard, but still he is hopeful, looking at some of my qualities, some of my character strengths, that I will be able to solve this problem and meet his expectation. That itself is a great motivation for the student. Next step is to facilitate the students to master a core concept, at least a core concept, or some gaps in learning. Don't focus upon time. Tell him to take his own time. Let him be a slow learner. When you are focusing upon slow learning, at one opportune time, you will find that the learning curve shoots up. Why? Because he is gathering the potential energy for understanding the concept in the initial period of time, where the time seems to be elongated one. But once that particular uh, trigger moment comes, he starts learning the remaining concepts at a faster pace. You need to have patience. Unfortunately, teachers do not have patience. You need to slow down your approach. Unfortunately, teachers are always hurrying the things up for the students. Lastly, teachers should be, as far as student perspective is concerned, they want testing at any time. They don't want a schedule. Be prepared for any time testing whenever student is ready, and not when teacher has completed the syllabus, not when the teacher has completed the units and he announces the test. Think of it, whether you can do it. Now, Relationships, the last part, which I was trying to focus upon, the skills of affective domain. Most of the teachers need some inputs on this particular part. There is a great amount of research happened in last more than 100 years. One of the researcher, Anna Freud, daughter of Sigmund Freud, a doyen of psychiatry and psychology in the world. She has done research in teacher development, teacher psychology. At one point of time, she says that teachers' brains are connected with students' brains without communicating anything. This speaks volumes about how students feel themselves connected with the teachers, assuming that there is an emotional connection. In one of the teachers' class in the school, one teacher tries to teach a mathematical concept, and with full energy, she teaches the concept for 1 full hour, and it's totally wrong. No one intervenes her, no one stops her. She goes back home, and then she realizes that whatever she taught was not correct. Feels bad. For the next session in the class, she comes and she apologizes to the students that I have done it in a wrong way. Then students tell her, Madam, we knew it was wrong, but looking at your energy, we didn't stop you. This speaks volumes about the kind of emotional connection children have with the students. It is necessary that you establish such kind of connections with the students. Student starts understanding you. Your brain starts communicating with the student's brain, even if you don't communicate, because there is a emotional connection. How to achieve this? There is another researcher, Arthur Jersid, who has done on research on the teachers, and he says that there are two skills teacher should have before he enters in the classroom. Number one, he should have meaning and purpose for his own life. Most of the teachers in our institute, in our department, we find that they do not know what is the purpose of their own life. They have entered into this profession because there were no jobs available outside. But still, once they have accepted this as a career, it is required that they find the meaning and purpose of their own life. Martin Seligman, one of the leading psychologists, still alive, has done a research on happiness and fulfilled life. And he says he has coined an acronym by PERMA, P-E-R-M-A. He says that if anyone wants to lead a contented and happy life, he should practice these 5 parameters of PERMA, where P stands for positive emotions, E stands for engagement. We as a teachers, assuming that we have a lot of positive emotions, we get engaged to this teacher's job, which is a pious job. But then out of this PERMA, the last part is A, that is accomplishment. We always look for some accomplishments in our career, and that we think is our life goal, and that we think is our career goal. In between we get some promotions, in between we get some salary increments, and that makes our life a little more financially viable. But what we miss is the R and M out of PERMA, where R stands for relations and M stands for meaning and purpose of life. If you want to focus upon meaning and purpose of life, you need to focus upon R. And this is where broadly I personally feel we teachers are lacking. We are not very keen on building relations. And therefore, we are not very keen on building relations with the students. The person who builds relations with anyone else, including students, also builds a strong relation with himself. Arthur Jersil says, building relation with yourself is most important. Then only you can have meaning and purpose of your life. How to build relation with yourself? He says, start being compassionate. What is compassion? Compassion is nothing but start practicing mindfulness on your own persona, on your own character. Do you get angry? Yes. Do you feel jealous? Yes. All sort of emotions and feelings you get in a metacognition mode. Metacognition means thinking over your own thoughts. The thoughts are coming to you. As a third party, you start thinking over your own thoughts. That is called as metacognition in mindfulness psychology. You become mindful about your own thoughts and you start analyzing why such kind of thoughts come to you in a particular setup, in a particular situation. That is the beginning of being compassionate with you. First, start being compassionate with you. Compassion means start respecting your own feelings. Get involved in your feelings because that is the outcome of your character strength, which has come from your birth till this time. And when you do that at one point of time, a child comes to you as a student, and emotionally, if he is connected with you, he starts explaining his challenges of life, maybe something related to his family challenges. And when he starts stating that, you realize that you have already lived this emotion. Why? Because such kind of emotions and feelings you also face as a human being, and you were compassionate with your own self, and that has helped you to get emotionally connected faster with the child, and you can be compassionate with the student. And that is how you can build emotional connection and relation with the students. This is very much necessary. Martin Seligman says R is necessary to lead a fulfilled and happy life. If you miss on R, that is relations, you miss on major portion of life's happiness. If you read any scripture of any religion, in the first chapter itself, in every religion, it is written that every birth of a human being is to help other human being. And this speaks volumes about relations, emotional connections, and compassion. If somebody is writing it in scriptures, and if we are not believing it, then we are the culprits. I think it's a criminal wastage of our mind energy. Osho Rajneesh used to say that being intelligent is the most dangerous thing in the world, because the person who thinks he is intelligent doesn't believe on scriptures, doesn't believe on elders, doesn't believe on anybody else who has more knowledge than him, and unfortunately creates or digs a grave for himself in a course of his lifespan, because he starts taking his own decisions. Slowly, the decisions taken for himself go in a wrong manner. They become directionless, and that is how his intelligence starts working against him. And that is why he says intelligence is dangerous. And therefore, here comes the role of your own feelings and the role of your own emotions to strengthen the relations with yourself by being compassionate, and with the students by being compassionate with them. Why this is important? Because it will lead you to your own meaning and purpose of your life. Every life on this earth, every human life has got some meaning. What kind of meaning? Usually the human life on this earth has a meaning to serve other lives, maybe other human lives. If you could find what is that you have in you by focusing more upon R, and R, because you're already an accomplished worker in positive emotions, engagement, and accomplishment, that cycle. If you focus more upon relations, someday you will get an enlightened view of what is that purpose God has sent you on this earth, and that day will be a sort of enlightened day for you as a teacher, and your teachership will take a new dimension, and that is required. That is the role of affective dimension in the teaching learning. Ultimately, if you are not focusing upon feelings and emotions, you are not of good culture. Alfred North Whitehead, a French philosopher of around 1750s, speaks about culture as a definition. He says, culture is nothing but it is the way you think. Culture is a game of thoughts. It is the way you think. It is the way you respond to beauty and feelings of others by thoughts. You're not taking any action. What is your culture? How to define your culture? Your culture is the way you respond to any beauty or any feelings of others. If you are strong in your culture, you can achieve the heights of an artist or a depth of a philosopher. This is what Alfred North Whitehead says. The first step in the professional life, that is when you entered the polytechnic as a teacher, only that count, only on that day your qualifications counted, your experience counted. From the next day onwards, no one asked you about what is your experience, what is your qualification, because your culture speaks volumes about what you are. It is the way you respond to beauty, and it is the way you respond to feelings of others. If you are strong in that, and if you follow this path, every day is an enriched experience for you. Maybe you will reach to the age of retirement, but on the date of retirement, the entire community will come to you and ask you to give more service to them, because your culturally is so strong. You have developed a service oriented personality by way of your culture, and society needs them forever. Until you die, society will ask for that input from you. That speaks volumes about your character for a right culture. The last part which I want to discuss out of relationship is, think on, can we develop a character of a child through classroom activities? Now this is a little tricky question. We need to understand what is this character. Character is a set of values. Every child comes to you, you also have a set of values. How a human creature, a human animal after birth gets a character which other animals do not have that kind of character? Because we have brain, we can think, we have developed our mind. Mind is nothing but it is a reflection of five senses a brain can treat. It's a faculty organized, all the faculties organized together. This is a unique thing a human being has. But when he comes out of womb of a mother, we call it as a birth, human birth. Everyone is happy in the family except the child, because child cannot breathe. He need not breathe inside the womb. He gets everything automatically. Food he gets, everything, oxygen he gets. His blood is purified by mother. So mother's oxygen helps him to purify himself. But the moment he comes out, he has to breathe himself. So small lungs, he cannot breathe. If he cannot breathe, doctor hit him, so that he starts crying, and crying will allow him to breathe. Slowly starts stabilizing in its breathing, and because of the physical activity of his lungs, he starts hungry, feeling hungry, starts starving, and he doesn't know what to do now, because in womb there is no training given that when a child is hungry, he should go to mother's nipple to suck some milk so that he will be getting some food. Only genetically ordered activity is that it is said that the child gets attracted to the mother's nipples, and that is how. But who knows, he doesn't have a proper sucking power to suck the milk. Maybe the mother also doesn't have proper milk produced on the first day itself. So every moment of his first day of human life after birth for a child is a challenge. Who helps him? Only mother. Mother keeps him near to his womb outside, and then out of love and affection, she starts developing the child. Slowly, child starts recognizing that there is somebody always nearer to me and who is helping me for all the small activities. The child starts smiling, mother starts smiling more because she is more happy. That is the beginning of developing a career. Mother gives by smiling and lot of love to the child the first character strength, that is self-esteem. Self-esteem is tested by ability to respect oneself, respect his own roots, his mother, his father, his caste, his creed, his religion, his village. All these things you start respecting yourself, but the beginning has happened by mother's love. And that's why you respect your roots more even today. What happened after the self-esteem? You have developed some strengths because your breath was stabilized, your eating habits were stabilized, and slowly you started generating some energy. That energy converted into your physical growth, and due to physical growth, again some energy, and you started your moving your limbs, moving your hands, and everyone in the family again more happy looking at your activities, and you started feeling better. Child develops courage because he has developed self-esteem. The second character strength mother gives to the child, that is courage, and courage is tested by ability to take risks in life. Suddenly you want to sit one day, stand up one day, run one day. What is that you are doing? You are courageous enough to take some step under the direct supervision of the mother. Whenever you are taking a step, you are looking at mother. If mother is happy, you are going ahead. If mother is not showing any interest, you are keeping quiet. That is how mother develops the child as far as basic character strengths are concerned. Once the courage is developed, the child doesn't want to listen to anyone now. If he wants to run, he wants to run. That means the third ability, third character strength, he developed by himself through mother's supervision, that is grit. Grit is tested by ability to never give up in life. And lastly, mother takes law into her hand. She says one day, child, when I say no, it means no. Your grit is not important. My no is important. Child learns the fourth character strength, that is reflection. Reflection is tested by ability to take make better choices in the life. And if you look at your own character now, though you are a teacher, you were better at self-esteem, courage, grit, and reflection. That is why you have come till here. But there will be children visiting you. Looking at their eyes, you can notice that somebody is low in self-esteem, somebody is not courageous enough. The person who is going ahead in career, the person who is going ahead in academic career, you can easily notice on the first day itself. If there is a curiosity in his eyes, if there is a grit in his character, you can easily say on the first day of his entry itself that this child will be a different child in the campus. But now, if somebody is not courageous enough, if somebody is depriving on self-esteem itself, if somebody is not showing reflection by not having good habits, what is a teacher's role? Stop teaching. Don't teach him applied mechanics. Don't teach him triple integration. But while teaching triple integration, Young's modulus, Bernoulli's equation, electromagnetic laws, radar engineering, whatever you are teaching, keep a tab on child's character. Don't let him know that you are keeping tab on his character, but you counsel with him indirectly, not directly. You tell, if he is low in self-esteem, you take him near and slowly open up. You ask him what's happening in his home, what's happening in his family. He will immediately come to know. The child will share his experiences, why he looks like a lost person on self-esteem. That's a beginning point for you to us to develop a aspired life with better self-esteem. And you can also try developing the character strengths, at least these four character strengths, through your classroom activity. You are teaching mathematics, you are teaching physics, you are teaching some engineering subject, but you are not teaching engineering subject, you are developing a character. If a teacher changes the role, that yes, I am very good at teaching this particular subject, but what I will do is that I will keep tab on developing a character of a child through classroom activities. This can also be a possibility. Martin Seligman himself, a very good researcher in character strengths, has come out with a virtual institute, via Institute on Character. I appeal all of you to visit this website. VIA stands for Values in Action, and VIA Institute on Character will allow you to test your own character strengths also. There is a free survey. Test your character strengths first. There are 24 character strengths divided into 6 categories. They focus upon not only your life to be happy, but your death to be peaceful. So let us do that. And slowly, when after 1 year, 2 year, 3 year from today, when you feel confident, broach this topic with a child who is a challenging child, and tell him that why shouldn't we have a character survey done for his strengths, so that we can have a better development for him in the span that he is left over in the campus. That is a possibility. So there are so many things to be done as far as affective domain skills are concerned. But please remember, your own social and emotional skills, your own social and emotional learning is more important. If you are not strong in your character, if you are not strong in your culture, if you are not emotionally having a mindful character, then you may face challenges. But let us use this as a laboratory. If you are having challenges in your social life, if you are having challenges in your emotional character, let us bridge those gaps and make that learning useful for the students as well. That can be a very good beginning for the relationship is concerned. I'm a staunch supporter for developing relationship using these ways between student and teacher to make learning more conducive, more uh, happy event in the campus. That is the way I look at teaching and learning. How to start relationships, if at all we need to start. Just let students know that you care for them. Your eyes should tell them that you really care for them. You may have one-to-one mentor relation. Actually, mentor relationship nowadays AICT also promotes, but it's a structured relationship. It requires a lot of training inputs for the teacher. It also requires some structure to be developed, because in a structured relationship, there are some benchmarks which we should meet. Usually in army and corporate sector, these mentor relationships are very effective. Try to do research. There's a lot of material available on Google, and you can find out how to develop this mentoring activity in a positive perspective in the campus, and by investing in relationship with the student. So in a sense, that completes my presentation on blended learning. So there were a few more slides which can convert your campus for a blended learning or learnability driven campus. But due to paucity of time, I feel uh, we will, I will share these slides with you, but we will stop here. I will be interested in taking few questions if you have any before we stop. Thank you so much.
Sir, one sec. I'll just take Sachin Mohite ji into the spotlight video. Sachin ji, I have asked you to unmute yourself. And would you please start your video too? Yes, sir. You're into the spotlight video now.
Yes, sir. Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you, Revankar sir. The session was wonderful, and all of us are stunned by the way you have communicated on the topic fundamentals of blended learning. You have delivered the ancient concept of teacher-student relations in the great Indian culture in the simplest possible words. Now we are at the end of this 1 week online HTTP training program that is on teaching learning pedagogies approved and funded by AICT Quality Improvement Scheme, that is AQIS New Delhi. In these 6 days HTTP, we have tried to learn and understand the different facets of pedagogies by eminent speakers from academia and corporate world as well. Now I request few participants to convey the inputs by giving your valuable feedback and suggestions if any. Anish sir. Hello.
Sir.
Yes, sir. We are taking some video feedbacks. So I request Harish Kumar to unmute and to start his video. Harish Kumar.
Harish, I have asked you to unmute yourself. So Harish Kumar KB is he's not able to unmute himself.
Okay, Dr. Padmanabh Deshpande, sir.
Padmanabh Deshpande ji, I have asked you to unmute yourself. Yes, and could you please start
Hello.
your video too?
Yes, sir. Am I audible?
Yes, sir. I have brought you into the spotlight video.
Okay.
So it would be better if you could keep your mobile phone horizontally so that we'll get the same stream and aspect ratio.
What, sir?
Go ahead, sir. No worries. Go ahead.
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. Myself, Dr. Padmanabh Deshpande from AISSMS College of Pharmacy, Pune, Maharashtra, would like to thank A.G. Patil Polytechnic Institute, Solapur, for giving me the opportunity to give the feedback on online STTP on teaching learning pedagogies, which is approved and funded by AICT Quality Improvement Scheme, New Delhi. Knowing that what strategies and techniques to employ and when to use them can mean the difference a student succeeding academically or experiencing the academic failure. That is why it is necessary for all the teachers to have a toolkit full of research-based pedagogical techniques that they can implement for academic benefit of student. So I think keeping in this view in mind, A.G. Patil Polytechnic Institute has organized this STTP for teacher fraternity to plan the activities that promote higher order thinking skills and to evaluate own teaching style and integrate with digital pedagogy. All the sessions which were delivered during this STTP program were really informative as well as excellent, and I am quite confident that this STTP will help the teachers to utilize effective teaching practices in classrooms and empower the teachers with modern and innovative pedagogical tools, and will enhance the student engagement through interactive and collaborative learning. Once again, I congratulate A.G. Patil Polytechnic Institute, Solapur, for organizing such informative short-term training program on teaching learning pedagogies. And I wish all the best to A.G. Patil Polytechnic Institute, Solapur, and all the team of Polytechnic Institute for their future endeavors. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much for your valuable feedback. Now I request Dr. Jaya Bedi, Bedi ma'am, to unmute and start her video.
I've asked Jaya ma'am to unmute herself. She's not able to unmute, it seems.
Okay. Next is Jayashree Kantale ma'am.
So she's not there in the participants list. I think she left.
Okay.
Let me check. JAYSH. Okay. Mrs. Jayashree Sudhakara is a Display name, if I'm not wrong.
Yes, yes.
Okay. I have asked Jayashree ma'am to unmute her, but I think she is not able to do it. No, sir. She is not unmuting herself.
Thank you participants for your feedback. We are motivated and thankful for your wonderful support. Today we are concluding the third slot of this STTP, that is from 7th September to 12th September 2020. And we have finished all the 3 slots of online STTP on the same topic, that is teaching learning pedagogies, that have been sanctioned by AICTE. At the end, we would like to thank Professor Praveen Revankar sir for their valuable guidance, AICTE New Delhi for providing approval and financial support, all the speakers for 6 days who have spent valuable time for us, management of Shanti Education Society, Honorable Sri A.J. Patil sir, our president, and our secretary Sri S.A. Patil sir, Dr. M.S. Ogule sir, our principal, and James Jakete sir, our vice principal, for their continuous guidance and support. All the head of departments, my colleagues, especially Mr. R.S. Modgi, Mrs. C.S. Depe ma'am, Mr. J.P. Pindar sir, and Mr. N.P. Patil sir. And most importantly, all the participants who have been so much energetic, active, and supportive. We are also grateful to Mr. Anish Sasbudde and team of Spice and Ice event Solapur for providing technical support. Finally, we thank the media people for covering the STTP. With the permission of organizer, I declare this STTP is completed now. We request you to submit the feedback for today's session. The link will be shared on Telegram channel as well as on our registered email ID up to 2:30 p.m. today. You all will get the participation certificate through your registered mail ID on the 15th September. Take care. Wish you all the best for your upcoming career. Have a good day. Thank you.